Hey everyone, you're watching Anime Jackson, and in this video I'm going to go through as to why at times we have a few years, 3, 4, 2, maybe more than 4 years, in between different anime seasons for our favourite anime. So we all have our favourite anime, and some of them are more popular than others, and some of them aren't as popular as others. But for the really popular ones, there are times that in between first and second seasons, or second and third seasons, and so on, that there can be a very long break in between, which can leave the fanbase for that particular anime or animes really frustrated because they want to see more of their favourite anime, but there's nothing to watch. And yeah, in my opinion, this feeling of frustration is rather reasonable because we all want to see what we want to see, but we can't see if it's not available. And when you get anime that have like 2 or more years of a break, you get to a point of, come on, there should be another season out by now, it's that popular. Let's have a look at just a select few different anime series that have had big year gaps. Firstly, the Tokyo Ghoul. The first season premiered in 2014. The second season, Tokyo Ghoul Route A, that started in 2015. That's only a year gap. That's perfectly fine. But its third season, Tokyo Ghoul Re, or however we're going to pronounce it, or say it, sorry, that's been done in 2018. And so there's a 3-year gap between the second season and third season. Or we've got Sword Art Online. Between its first and second season, there was a 2-year gap. To me, it's not too bad, but it's getting to a point of a little bit of frustration. Its second and third season is going to have a 4-year gap. Third season comes out in 2018, and the second season was done in 2014. Also, there's Attack on Titan. It has a 4-year gap between its first and second seasons, but then it's going to only have a 1-year gap between its second and third season. And lastly, there's Blue Exorcist. The first season premiered in 2011, and its second season, that started in 2017. So there's a 6-year gap between its first and second season. So why do some anime have some very long breaks? Well, firstly, it comes down to how much of the original material there is to use. Most anime aren't original, if that makes sense. You got anime like Guilty Crown and Code Geass, they are completely original. All the ones I listed beforehand of Tokyo Ghoul, Sword Art Online, Attack on Titan, Blue Exorcist, they are all originally either manga or light novel. Also, some anime take inspiration from visual novels like Fate Stay Night, or games like Pokemon and Yokai Watch. Most anime has some form of original material that they go from. So if there's not enough original material to make a 12-episode season, well, then they aren't going to make a 12-episode season. So yes, because most anime have some form of original content to go from, it does become a question of how much content there is to use, as I said before. And some anime do use lots of content from the original source material. Like Tokyo Ghoul took 66 manga chapters to make its first season. So there's some idea as to how much material is actually used for some anime. For when it comes to an anime that's based off a manga, how much content is used is determined by how dense, how much information there is in each and every manga page. If the manga is constantly dense with information, so there's a lot of information, well then they're going to use less and less chapters to make 12 or 24 episode anime. But if it's not quite so dense, then I got to use more chapters to make sure there's enough content per episode. So if there isn't enough content to do a second or third or so on season for an anime, well then the anime has to wait till there is enough content. I also believe when it comes to the amount of content being used, there is an issue of how effectively the original source material is being used. And what I mean by that is, like with movies based off books, there's always information left out. They take in all the important things and there's always something left out. And it could be a big thing, it could be a small thing. I might explain how we get from point A to point B a little bit more, but they just give you the information that is absolutely needed. In a book, they'll take days and days to read, and they condense it to a 2.5 hour long movie. Anime and manga kind of do the same. And because anime uses so much source material, surely there is something left out, especially when it comes to an anime that's based off a light novel, because light novels are actual books. Like, I reckon an anime that effectively uses its original source material is Shokugeki no Soma, or Food Wars. It's had 3 seasons in 3 years. So to me, that shows that they are effectively using the content really well, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to do a season each year for 3 years in a row. Of course, knowing how popular an anime could be can really help the producers and the director and all the anime staff know how well and effectively to use original source material, as well as how much they should use. And what I mean by that is, let's say with Attack on Titan, they misjudged for the first season how popular it was going to be. That's why there was a 4-year gap between its first and second season. They wanted to wait not only for there to be more manga chapters to use, but also so that there was more manga chapters so that they could get a third season out sooner. If they actually knew how popular it was going to be, they could have done, instead of a 24 episode first season, 12 episode first season, wait a year and a half, and do a second one, wait a year and a half, do a third one, and then do a fourth one a year and a half later. So yeah, that's what I mean by at times anime companies misjudge how popular a new series is going to be, as anime can be more popular than its manga or light novel, just because it's easier to watch anime than it is to read anything. But also, if they know it's going to be popular, they try to use as much of the original content as possible so that they shorten how much of the content they use so that they can have more content left over. But of course, no matter how effectively they use the original content, especially with manga, there is the issue of how many chapters go into an episode. For a manga, let's say it's about 3 chapters, 3, 4, and for a light novel, it really depends on how dense each and every chapter is and how much useful, absolutely necessary information there is. With manga, if you're doing 3 or 4 chapters per anime episode, you're eventually going to catch up to where the manga is. And that's when they're going to need to have a few years break so that the manga can keep going, and then they can think about doing another anime season. And the reason why they use so many manga chapters is to keep the anime at a good anime pace. Manga doesn't need to be paced at the same rate as anime does, so that something actually kind of happens each episode instead of nothing really happening and it taking a long time to get from point A to point B. Anime needs to use more chapters so that they can achieve that good anime pace. And in the case of Sword Art Online, its first season it used 4 light novel books, and its second season used 3 and a bit. Used a little bit over 3, but not quite 4 light novel books as well, which then left it practically caught up to where the light novel was at. So that's how much they can condense light novels into anime. When they do catch up, I need to figure out whether it's worth it or not to actually do another season sooner, with the possibility of doing some filler episodes, or to wait it out. Now, fortunately, these days we see 12 episode and 24 episode anime seasons as the normal. We see less and less and less long running anime series like One Piece and Naruto and Dragon Ball and Fairy Tail, with the exception this year being Black Clover. That's going to be a 48 episode season, I think it's going to be. Now, to get back on track, because anime seasons go for a shorter period of time, that allows them to utilize less of the original source material so that they can have a year break, and then the source material can continue to step further and further away from the anime before the anime starts again to catch up a little bit. So that does help. This year break does help, and because they have these year breaks, it's also keeping like the anime each and every season fresh, and also it's limiting the amount of filler episodes, because no one really seems to like filler episodes. It's rare for there to be a filler episode or a filler arc that people actually enjoy. So I do reckon it's a smart choice for the anime studios to do 12 or 24 episode seasons, because it does allow to keep things fresh, but it also keeps the popularity in the anime, because that means that there's less filler episodes. And then because people don't seem to like filler episodes, I'm not quite sure what it is like with the Japanese anime community, but surely filler episodes and arcs do create less views, which therefore creates less money for these anime studios. So do something new and fresh each and every season, and just let all these manga and light novels just to get that further bit ahead so that there's more content to use for the next anime season is a pretty smart thing to do, in my opinion. Also, I do reckon popularity plays a big part. If an anime isn't popular enough, then that can really take a hit as to how long it's going to take to get a second or third season. While not knowing the exact details, I do partially reckon that part of the reason why it took 6 years for Blue Exorcist to get a second season was because that the first season started off following the manga. Then at one point it decided, you know what, we're going to do our own thing, let's do some original anime content. It did filler content. And I'm of the belief from what I've read that people didn't exactly like it. And that may have actually hit that anime's popularity. So the anime studio probably would have gone, you know what, we'll wait a bit so the manga can get ahead, but also so that we can judge if the manga is still popular enough when we decide that, you know what, we can do another anime season for Blue Exorcist. Manga popularity is still there, that people are going to watch the anime. And so 6 years later, we got the second season. But now that we have looked at some of the reasons, if not all of the reasons as to why it can take multiple years to get a second or third season, or so on, of an anime, How long is too long to wait, and how long is just the right amount of time? Well, I reckon that 1 to 1.5 years is a pretty good wait time, because that allows especially manga to get ahead. Maybe not as much light novels, but it allows the writer for light novels to get a little bit more information done. They might get a book out, so they might get part of a book done, but to me it's a good wait time, at least. And I do reckon that when we get to the 2 year mark, that's when frustration starts to take hold, and you start seeing the internet memes of it's been 2 years since that we've seen this, or when are we going to see the second season of that. So yeah, that's my belief. 2 years. 2 years is still alright, don't get me wrong, but it's in that funny area of it's an alright time to wait, but it's getting to a point of it's starting to get just a little bit too long. I do reckon that if you get to 3 years, but especially 4 years, well then we have waited long enough for an anime season from our favourite anime. But that's just my opinion. I do understand why we have to wait. It's for content, because we as the international anime community, especially the English speaking part of the anime community, really do not like filler content. So with that, I do understand why we have to wait. I do reckon that when it gets to 4 years, it should be enough content to use. Of course, with what I've just said, if there's not enough content, there's not enough content and we have to wait that bit longer. And I do believe that if every anime used every bit of information from the manga and light novel and games and visual novels, then they could actually stretch, let's say, with the 3 or 4 manga chapters, they might be able to make it 2 to 3 manga chapters. I know that there is possible some anime do that, but then that makes it easier for them to get a second season or third season again, so on, out as soon as possible, because then there is more content to use, because they have saved some of that content, because they used as much of all the little details, everything that they had at their disposal of the original source material. And that may only mean that they need a year to a 2 year break instead of a 3 or 4 year break in between anime seasons. But anyway, that's all I have for you for this video today. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like or comment down in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more content by me, then check out my channel. You might find another video or two that you like the look of. Or consider subscribing to me, it'd be a great help to me, and you get to stay up to date for when I upload more videos. Again, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all next time in the next video. See ya.